So in Western society, we're really encouraged to be productive all the time, to be as productive as possible and get lots done. And that's fine, that's great. And if you're productive, that's really good. But the problem with that is that where we're less productive, or if we get distracted, if we don't have a day which is as productive as others, sometimes we can beat ourselves up about that. And really what's important to me is sharing the idea that, we're going to have days where we're productive, we're going to have days where we're not so productive, we're going to have afternoons where we're productive, we're going to have evenings where we're productive, we're going to have mornings where we're productive, and we're going to have mornings where we're not productive. We're going to have afternoons where we get distracted a lot and we're not really on our game, let's say. And for me, it's being a little bit kinder to ourselves in those moments because they're very, very normal. They're really normal. We're often going through times when we're more productive and less productive, happier, sadder, more confident, less confident, more stressed, less stressed. So our experience of human life is doing that all the time. So that's really important. And a key thing with the word procrastination is the idea, really, that there's something else I should be doing. So you might even be procrastinating by watching this video because there might be something else that you really should be doing. Work or, booking some tickets to something or whatever it is. So really procrastination refers to the idea that you should be doing something different than what you're actually doing. Now, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if that's true. I'm really not sure. And what you're doing is what you're doing. There is no alternative to what you're doing. And sometimes we're immersed in an activity, sometimes we're immersed in a task, and it gets done like that. It gets done very efficiently and to a very high standard. And sometimes we have tasks which take a bit longer. Sometimes we have tasks that require more planning, or we just really just don't want to do them. And they tend to go to the back of the queue, back of the queue, back of the queue. But being kind about, our attention, being kind about our focus, being aware that, okay, I'm not having a particularly productive afternoon, but there's a chance that this evening I'm going to click into gear and I'm going to have a really productive evening, or vice versa. That's always possible. It's always possible. It's always available to us. When we start to realize that that's the way that it works, is that sometimes our attention is there, sometimes our motivation is there, and sometimes our motivation is looking at different things. This talk is not going to be about time management. It's definitely not going to be talking about time management, because time is it's a construct, it's a man-made construct. It doesn't really exist in nature. And what I mean by that is, I don't mean that time doesn't exist, actually. What I mean is that nature doesn't nature doesn't nature doesn't abide by laws of hours and minutes and days. Days were invented by man. Time was invented by man. The seasons were invented by man as an observation, as a description of what was going on. So it's the opposite way around, right? So time is something that human beings invented to describe what was going on, and it's helpful. It's really helpful. It's really useful. But the only thing that really exists is this present moment, and the next present moment, and the next moment, and the next moment. So in terms of time management, that's not something that we're going to be talking about too much. It's not. We will talk about a bit. We will talk about time, but certainly not time management, because really what it's about is self-management. If that, and even that's a stretch, if I'm honest. But it's about being aware that we live in an experience which is moment to moment, and in this moment we might not be particularly productive, but in the next moment we might be super productive. We might have switched on the light and we're going, right, okay, this is it. This is it. I'm getting this job done. I'm getting this task done. And we might fall out of that again. In 5 minutes' time, we might get distracted. In 10 minutes' time, in 20 minutes' time. So we're constantly having an experience which is moment to moment, and anything can change in those moments. Anything can change. So when we're fully immersed in the task, when we're fully immersed in the present moment, there's no thinking that's happening. So when we're driving, for example, go onto autopilot. When you're doing a task that you've done time and time and time and time again, you go into autopilot. If you're making a cup of tea, you don't think about, you know, where where to get the tea bag, and how long I should leave the tea bag in the cup of tea. You're just doing it. You're on autopilot. And when we're in that state, there's very little thinking about, what we should or shouldn't be doing. And going back to that idea that procrastination is this idea of, okay, I should be doing something different. This isn't what I should be doing. I spend so much time doing stuff that I shouldn't be doing. Well, when you accept what you're doing as is the present moment, which is unavoidable, kind of, it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit lighter. It's a little bit easier to digest. We talk a little bit about motivation, and you don't have to be motivated to do something. When you know on a deeper level that something is the right thing to do, you don't need any motivation to do it. An example I like to use is brushing your teeth. So most people brush their teeth twice a day, I would say, once in the morning and once in the evening. And you don't have to feel good about brushing your teeth. You don't have to be confident about it. You just do it. You just do it because it's the right thing to do. You have an understanding that that's the right thing to do. And sometimes when we have lots of things to do, it can become a little bit overwhelming, and it can be easier to procrastinate when you don't know what the next thing to do is. So knowing what is the most important next thing to do is a really good step to stopping procrastination. Another tip that I like to use is, this thing here is a distraction monster, really. And it allows us, and the same with what I'm recording on. So this is on my laptop. So when I started to prepare for this video, and when I prepare for the talk, I won't be doing it on here because it's so easy to click on a link and you're literally opening up the world. You've got the world of knowledge, world of information in the palm of our hands at the moment. So it's really easy to be distracted by all of that. And so something that's really helped me was to turn off all notifications. So on all social media, anything like that, emails, notifications are all off. And what that allows me to do is to go to that information it's when it's right for me, when it's available for me. And essentially what happened with communication, you know, we used to communicate by sending letters. And so you'd take a couple of weeks maybe for a letter to arrive, and then you would read the letter and write a reply, and then another 2 weeks, and obviously that process is sped up over time, over time, over time. Now we live in this, what I call, notification culture. And what I mean by that is we have a notification, a bing goes off on our device, and immediately our attention is taken away from the present moment around us, from what we're experiencing in this moment. And lots of people feel the need to reply immediately to a message or, to an email. And not only that, they expect to reply, or they have a desire to reply immediately, but people actually expect a reply immediately. Now, what that's doing is creating a kind of, a tie to these devices. And yeah, I mean, I found really helpful just switching off notifications and dealing with messages, dealing uh, with stuff when I've got time to deal with it. So if you're waiting for a reply from me, I do apologize. But that's just the way I manage things now. And what that allows me to do is sit in the garden and enjoy, a beautiful evening, or enjoy the company of people around me, or, go for a walk and really enjoy the fresh air, or whatever, or you get involved in a task, whatever it is you're doing in that moment. So I find that quite helpful.